Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday, March 23rd, 2011, and it's time for Newbie Tuesday on Wednesday. Because nothing happy is going on lately, that's right. See, I just want to point out, see these things? See those little bits? That's not makeup. That's thesis, still clinging to my face. I have been just typing away at the bright, reassuring white light of a Word document. It's a lot of words. I think I have like a 16,000 word thesis. Yeah, that's right. Because the important thing to remember about life is that although in an adolescent period, it's the penis measuring contest, at other stages of life, it depends, what you're measuring. The bros at college are like, this is how many girls I've hooked up with. Later in life, you could perhaps do salaries, or as a grad student, it's length of thesis. At a younger age, it's a slices of pizza eating contest. How many slices of pizza? Yeah, I had like 15 slices of pizza. Just sort of varies, and it's okay to just embrace that. Because I have been sort of only doing that. Hence the frazzle. I didn't actually sleep a tremendous amount yesterday evening, which was one of the main reasons why Newbie Tuesday yesterday just didn't happen. It did not occur at all, so it will be occurring today. However, Blizzard said, Day 9, you aren't having a stressful enough day. It's not going bad enough. So we're going to patch our game, thereby requiring every single replay you load for Newbie Tuesday to require a full reboot of StarCraft 2. Oh! And then I have to drag my StarCraft screen out of the way and log in and then drag it back. Oh! And it's raining in Los Angeles. And not even like raining so hard that you like run, but it's just drizzling, so you're always like damp. And I am just so wet right now. And I know exactly how that sounds, but I don't care. I'm allowed to do that. I have earned that privilege by submitting the final draft of that thesis, which then I have to defend. Then I have to give it to an editor who's going to be like, you forgot a whole bunch of periods and none of your citations make any sense at all, so you have to redo those. Then I'm going to redo them, and then there's going to be like a month to finish the project. It's going to be a while, but like I got the written part down, so now time for the most underprepared daily of all time. I also ordered pizza. That's another salient point to mention. I've ordered pizza. It should be here, like, kind of soon. But again, it's raining, so it perhaps could have arrived beforehand. But, of course, with the rain, it'll probably take 3.5 hours for him to navigate from 3 blocks that way to my house. LA drivers don't handle rain well. The important thing to note throughout all of this is that you need to feel very, very sorry for me. So, Marky, if you could set up the poll and just get the following information. If they feel sorry for me, type a 1. If they don't feel sorry for me, type a 0. Don't do it yet. Wait for the cue from one of the admins. Just want to make sure that there's an adequate amount of sorrytude. Because then we can make it objective. We can be like 97.3% of people feel sorry for you. And 2.7% are just curious about Reapers, which is, of course, the topic of today's Newbie Tuesday. Alright. Let me just... Whew. Yes! Let's do this. Okay. Now, see, this is an interesting daily because not only do you get the chance to learn about the Newbie Tuesday topic of the day, but it's actually going to be a little bit of a reveal of what the actual process of producing a Newbie Tuesday is like. So first what I do is I log into the Day 9, submission email where all the Newbie Tuesday and Fun Day Monday and all the submissions get shot to, and that's where the admins get this. All the volunteer admins is just like, yeah, can you help me sort through this? They've created a million mechanisms to make the sorting and identification and tagging of them easier, so I use some of those to go to the Newbie Tuesday games, and I start downloading a whole bunch of them. And what I try to do with the Newbie Tuesday games is I'll watch generally 20 to 30 of them. And I will try to create some sort of story to them, like, okay, here is a real problem game. And notice how this player tries to fix it, but encounters this problem. And notice when we fix that, we encounter that problem. So we want to end up here. So there's some sort of straight through line. I didn't get the chance to do that. So this is actually dangerous territory at this point, because what this means is that sometimes when people submit Newbie Tuesday games, they'll just not even do the correct strategy or even play the same race. Like, I got this one that was like, here's a really cool Reaper game. And it's labeled as, like, Day 9, Reaper, Tuesday, whatever. And I click on it, it's 2 Protoss players. Whatever. That's fine. Because I was unable to get to my computer because I was stuck at school trying to submit all the final garbage, this is the overall structure that I was trying to go for this daily. Here is this week's Newbie Tuesday. You should play a game, or I should say today's Newbie Tuesday. Don't keep doing this for the week. You should submit a game of you trying to incorporate lots of Speed Reapers into your play. So in particular, I said at least 5 Reapers with speed. So you can open with it, you can do a mid-game with it. I want to see what it is that you guys come up with. This is almost like a Fun Day Monday. In Fun Day Mondays, I impose ridiculous constraints. Like, for instance, the one coming up next week is about nuking people while saying Dr. Zeus-like things, right? It's intended to be fun. But a lot of times, what happens in the lifespan of someone who's trying to become more creative, expand their strategies, is they'll just think, I want to try to use queens, and they'll try to make it work. Or in this case, I want to try to use reapers, and I want to try to make it work. This is what I was looking for. First of all, other than that you actually did it, first of all, I want to see, were you extremely vulnerable while going for that thing? That is the most obvious, immediate question. If you try to go for unit mixture X, and while going for X, you just die, we have a problem. So, for instance, when I think, hey, there's players who are going to be going Reapers, if they're against a Protoss, I'm thinking, well, how does he deal with a player who... Or let's say a player comes up to me and says, Sean, I am going to open Reapers with speed. And if he's against a Protoss, I think, well, how's he going to deal with, like, Stalker pushes? How does he deal with a player who goes for Void Ray? And if I watch him and he loses, I'll kind of be like, ugh. Or a Zerg, or against a Zerg, I'll be like, how does he account for roaches? What about roach pushes early on? How do the Reapers deal with that? That's the first question I want to be asking. Now, again, if I had time to prepare, I would search through my 20 or 30 replays and find games where they just die straight up. And I'd point to that. But I don't have that luxury because my life's awful this week and the next week and the previous week. So then let's do the second thing. The second big thing that I want to think about is, while getting this strategy, what do they do with the money distribution, right? So when I say, hey, I'm going to go for Speed Reapers or something like that, I am going to be spending a lot of gas, because Speed Reapers is a very, very, very gas-heavy strategy. 50 minerals, 50 gas, you end up with just a bunch of minerals left over. And a good question is, how are you going to spend that minerals? Are you going to get an engineering bay to get more upgrades? Are you going to be getting command centers to expand? Are you going to be getting just more barracks? Are you going to be massing supply depots? These are all reasonable questions. So again, do you stay alive? And 2, how does that money distribution come into play? And the third big thing that I go for, I could do a 4th or a 5th thing, but you know what? I love lists of 3s, yeah. The third big thing that I go for is how it plugs in to other strategies, or in particular how it plugs into the rest of your play. So, let me do the most obvious Speed Reaper strategy from the beta, when you could just get oh my god, my brain literally just stopped functioning. Oh my god, it shut down. Okay, you can do this, Sean. You can do this. In the beta, Tech Labs just had speed for Reapers. The instant they finished, you could just begin getting Reaper speed. Okay, cool. So if we ask the same question right then about this plugging in, the way that a lot of Terran players would battle against Zergs is that they would open with 1 rack speed Reaper, get the speed, get the Reaper, and then as they got more money, they would add on 2 more barracks and get more Reapers. And they would still have some money left over, so they'd add on 2 more racks and still keep going Reapers. And then they would still have money stockpiling. I'm not actually kidding. Go rewatch Morrow in all his Intel Extreme Masters Cologne games, at all the Gamescom games from Morrow, who did used to play Terran. And then with that money stockpile, they build a command center. So it was like barracks, Reaper, 2 more barracks, more Reapers, 2 more barracks, more Reapers, command center, expand, and then with all these 5 barracks, he would just begin massing a bunch of infantry. So this example is good for a number of benchmarks. One, we consider that how do you stay alive? Well, because you get speed so fast, you can actually micro against the roaches, and because you're putting pressure on the Zerg so early, he's having to play defensively. He can't even be offensive against you. 2, how does the money distribution work? You just heard me talk about that. Adding more barracks, and getting a command center, and then getting more Reapers, and right as we're expanding, we suddenly, just do something else. And the third big thing, how does that plug in? Well, I get a ton of Reapers and a ton of barracks, so I can get the Reapers, and this plugs in nicely to a mass Marine Marauder mid-game. If I was watching a Newbie Tuesday game and someone opened mass Reapers and then went 5-port Banshee, I would be like, that doesn't feel so clean. So there's 3 things I want to be considering when going through these games. Again, this is one of the few dailies where I've literally had 0 preparation. So these are the ways that I would go through it when in preparation for a daily. So this is Brun. I do believe this is somewhat of a long game. We're going to go ahead and spoil it. Yeah, good. It's 19 minutes. So this should give us an ample opportunity to examine his play. So we have Pyramid Head in the bottom right. Good. I had sound enabled. Woo, baby, it's an off day. Oh, baby. So Brun is going to be incorporating at least 5 Speed Reapers into his play somehow. So the first things that I always want to be a little worried about is the fundamentals. Is he continually making SCVs? Is he getting the supply depots? Looks like, yeah, everything's going pretty much fine. Actually, checking the APM is generally a pretty good measure. And anyone who's sort of in this range is probably going to be pretty much fine. Anyone who's teetering above 60, I don't get that hung up about. Looks like we're seeing Brun move around. And part of the reason why I suggested this Speed Reaper thing for Newbie Tuesday, remember the 3 things that I said. 1, staying alive. 2, how does your money operate? And 3, how does it plug in well? These are things that traditionally newer players will end up struggling with as a whole. And when we suggest to do newer strategies, these really tend to just come out very, very clearly. And often strategies rely so heavily on having just clearly lined up economies that you won't know if they're good or bad just upon a first attempt. So it looks like Pyramid Head's probe is gonna self-sacrifice. So we're actually going to begin speeding up. We can already begin to see that Brun does not really have constant SCV production. This one supply depot is a little teensy bit behind. Tech Lab's coming up pretty much on time, though. I'm not going to stress too much about it. I could really begin griping hard all over Brun, but I'm not going to be that concerned about it. I'm going to talk a little bit now about plug-inedness. Opening up with 4 barracks. Oh, 4 barracks. My God, is that a good idea or a bad idea? Well, I want you to think about that third point, plugging in. If I get 4 barracks, I probably can't support nothing but Marauders out of all of them and upgrades. That sounds a little too costly. But maybe I can make some Marines and Marauders and then suddenly whip out 4 Reapers and then go back to the other things. Yeah, I actually like that quite a bit. In terms of plugging in, works great. Works good. I like it. I like this basic setup if we're going to be doing some sort of big Reaper play. Got to worry a little bit more about things like, am I making supply depots on time, etc. Let's actually go into the Brun cam. I keep on wanting to call him Brun because, of course, I live nearby UCLA. And even though I go to USC, I don't care too much about the rivalry. But I do know that they're called Bruins. Ah, success. Uh-oh. Ooh, baby, that was close. For any of you who didn't know, updating to newer versions of Updating newer versions of StarCraft 2 tends to cause some instability. You might be seeing me get a little bit choppy from time. Yeah, it looks like I'm starting to smooth on out. But if you see any choppiness throughout this whole daily, I promise you it's what's happening on my computer. You're fine. Don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it. Good. So here we see Brun actually canceling a barracks. I'm not going to worry as much about that. Obviously, you don't want to start building things and then cancel them. But we do see Brun building a factory, and we see the reactor going down right now. So it looks like kind of a usual mix. Factory is also required to get that Nitro pack upgrade, the Speed Reaper boost. We're going to speed things up a little bit. I'm going to speed things up a touch. This usual look, 3 barracks, 2 attack lab, 1 with reactor, that's quite typical. As we can see in the Protoss camp, he's getting the usual typical mix himself with a lot of gateway units. So at this point in time, when I look at Brun's play, I don't feel anything that would indicate that Reapers are going to be coming. Until about now, when I begin to see, oh, look, 2 Reapers are getting made. Now, this actually, whoopsie daisies, this actually excites me a lot. This actually excites me a lot. We obviously see that Brun doesn't have smoothness of play. Smoothness is always the most critical thing, which is, oop, never forgot a depot, never had money stockpiling in my bank, always making SCVs. Smooth, clean, crisp. Things are just sort of like, things plug into each other nicely, yeah. So, obviously, we would say, Brun, you need to work on your macro and keep building shit, dude. But, this opening 2 barracks, or 3 barracks with 2 tech lab and the stim upgrade, as well as 1 with reactor, that is a typical style of play. This is a mixture that we see a lot of Terran players go for. In fact, Select does this a lot, including getting this command center at about this time. The factory might seem a little bit funky in this mixture, but hey, you know what? These Nitro packs could potentially be pretty cool. And notice as well, now that we've begun to do the Reaper portion, I talked about plugging in. That's literally everything I was just talking about. Plugging in the 3 barracks, first making the Marines and the Marauders, and that plugs in nicely to the idea of starting to get some Reapers later on. Now that we're in Reaper mode, there's one question I have to ask. Could we have died at all beforehand? Again, that's the first question. Am I going to die at any point? No, probably not, because you've been making a lot of Marines and Marauders. Cool, so it both plugs in, and the third point, that's right, I'm skipping the most important finger of all. The third point is it plugs in well, you don't die, it plugs in well, and now I'm going to start saying what happens with our economy when we're doing that, because this is the thing that can be very, very bumpy. Notice that right as we're going to get 2 more Reapers, I'm going to assume Brun does make 2 more. Please make 2 more Reapers, Brun, man, Brun, speeding it up. Is he going to make anything? Brun. Yeah, okay, cool. As he makes the 2 Speed Reapers, he's essentially keeping his gas low, or he could have, but there's a little bit of money stockpile. This is a reasonable time to begin adding on more barracks. You're starting to see that? Like, let me back up to right before this engineering bay was built. We'll actually back up to right when these 2 Reapers were about to pop out. Okay, so notice that 1 Reaper pops out, and here's the other Reaper about to pop. If we just go RR right now and just lock up our 2 Reapers, we're going to have 181 minerals and basically no gas. We can actually squeeze in a barracks right now. There's a celebration going on out in the hall. Can you hear that? I certainly can hear that. Well, whatever. There's no celebrating happening in here yet. Tonight, when I'm able to just sit down, put in that DVD of Supernatural Season 1, which is a really good show, that's when the celebration will begin. But anyways, coming right on back. We see that the money drops low. That to me would be like, oh yeah, I'm going to build a barracks right now. And that's going to be awesome. And I want you to note the significance of this. What I just said is a very special moment. Right as you're beginning to get Reapers, you're low on gas, but you're high on minerals. So spend that mineral in some way. And I'm loving the timing that Brun's getting on it, as a matter of fact. And some of you may be wondering, well, do I ever see this anywhere else? Absolutely you do. Consider, and now something's burning. I'm just going to assume that they're cooking things and it's not my computer about to overheat and die. Consider a very common opening in Protoss vs. Zerg where the Protoss goes for a whole bunch of sentries while expanding. That is the exact same concept. Spending all your gas, not spending all your minerals. What do you do with that minerals? You expand. And then when you expand, what do? You keep making sentries. Why is that? Because you need minerals to make more gateways. Yeah! It's not just about in the immediate moment. You can set yourself up for later things. So this, I think, is a good setup. Notice how the economy and this whole plugging into each other interplays. These 3 barracks, this opening plugs into the Reaper. Building the Reapers, stockpiling money to add more barracks, that plugs into a big barracks mid-game quite well. So we're going to see the Reapers pop out. The Reapers needlessly pop by the gold expansion. We see the Expo Command Center going down. Yeah, look at these Reapers there. What we're going to see real fast from Brun is that he just cannot quite spend his money. So we're going to see the Reapers continue to begin to go in. But you know what? I'm really, really liking this style of play by Brun. Even the timing of it kind of allows him to, look, this is right when Pyramid Head is beginning to expand. So he can continue to poke and prod at that. Hasn't quite begun to exploit that at this point in time. But yes, there's the 4 Speed Reapers. At this point, notice the money beginning to climb. We can easily add on some more barracks, easily, and even begin getting some upgrades or something along those lines. And this is something very uncomfortable that happens with a lot of players, is that if you watch, look, there's another barracks going down. If you watch MVP, I'm trying to think of all the players I saw do this recently, like Jinro, I saw MVP do this, like more Terrans than 2, which is all my brain can muster right now. Have this look in Terran vs. Protoss. 3 barracks, Marine Marauder, 1 factory, Starport. So 3 barracks, Marine Marauder, 1 factory, Starport. Sure, they get more later, but at a point in time, there are 3 barracks, Marine Marauder, 1 factory, Starport. Why do I keep repeating 3 barracks? Because when people tend to try new strategies, the biggest issue they encounter is not adjusting those numbers properly based upon what they're doing. So there we see, hey, I'm getting Reapers. What does it do to my money? Well, in general, it's a little bit higher, and in particular, we're going to see that my money gets higher. So now Brun is continuing to add Reapers. And now I still want to come back to that first question. Are we going to die? Are we worried about dying? I'm not going to assert that, yeah, immediately, Brun, you're dead as shit, dude. Instead, I'm just going to say, don't overdo, or not don't overdo, but be aware that if you overdo your unit of choice, you can potentially cripple yourself. It's kind of like if I said, hey, queens are pretty cool, and you said, really? And then you played a game where you got 15 queens before you made a unit. I would say, calm down, build a Zergling, relax, have a brew, bro. But in this particular game, I'm just feeling a little concerned about Brun, just because that's a lot of Reapers. If we even note the distribution, we see 5 Marauders, 18 Marines, 4 Zealots, 1 Immortal, a Stalker, 2 Sentries. Yeah, it's actually looking quite good. Don't forget that these guys are very, very good at picking off Zealots and Sentries. Like, really, really good. I'm hoping we actually get to see this encounter a little bit more, because Reapers are kind of pinned as the they're a tech assault warrior. I don't know, does it even have something like this? No, it just has Reaper. They definitely had a little bit too much of that in other games. It's an assault mech launcher defender recruit, you know, and it's not particularly useful. So we're seeing Brun actually come in here. It looks like he's going to do some harassment. Hey, look at this. Whoa, look at that Colossus tech actually coming out. This is really cool to me, and the Colossus doesn't get out. That's actually a very interesting timing for me. Here's something that I am learning right now in the course of watching Brun play. Most Protosses will go 3 Gateway, and then they'll get a Robo, and then they'll begin going Colossus after they expand. That's real typical. It's super typical. Very dangerous against a player making a lot of barracks, but pretty darn safe against a Terran player meching, against a Terran player going 3 barracks straight into medevac. It's pretty safe. It's pretty safe. However, what we're seeing at this point is, wow, this actually has a pretty cool timing. And this is something that is very important for you to discover when you are trying to work in a particular build. Up to this point, I have only talked about what's happening at home. I've only talked about, do we seem vulnerable? Are we going to die? How's our money doing? And how does the rest of our build integrate with that? Are we getting too many excess structures? Are we not? I haven't even talked about like the timing and the tacticianry that you can impose with these sort of Reapers. So this is a very important thing to explore. Being passive, being aggressive, incorporating the Reapers into your army, splitting the Reapers up from your army. Now what we're seeing is Brun is kind of swinging around here, doing a lot of damage, and he's going to be able to pop out relatively effectively. Now, I actually want to rewind this game just a little bit, because it's very important that you have benchmarks that you're doing all the time. So let's see, our Reapers have not yet engaged. Good, there's the robotics facility. Let's open up our food count. Our foods seem basically the same. Now, if you are a diamond level player, you will probably have 10 more food than either of these players, because you will just be making more SCVs. You'll be not forgetting pylons. I mean, look, no probes being made, no probes being made. There we go, no probes being made. But that's fine. The important thing to note is that we're going to look at the food before and after. This is always a very easy way to measure if something was successful or not. And it's pretty damn important that you do this, because a lot of times what will happen, especially when you're experimenting with something like Speed Reapers, is you'll go in there, kill a structure that you've never gotten the chance to kill before. Oh my gosh, a robotics facility? While a Colossus was making, this strategy's the shit! And then if you actually look at the food count, something where like you have 60 food and he has 100, and then after you do this damage, you're at 70 food and he's at 90. So he's still ahead of you. You're not winning yet. That is so important to note. Really, really important to note. In this circumstance, I would read into this a little bit. Hey, we got Reapers to move up. I had the same food as my opponent. Whoa, and then I move up, and I get the chance to kill off a robotics facility. It looks like I didn't get the Colossus. I might write down in my StarCraft notebook what time does he generally have a Colossus building. And then that way, that will help guide my Reaper rush antics, or excuse me, my Reaper assault antics. But there we're seeing, alright, looks like he's doing kind of roundabout, and oh, look how vulnerable the expansion is. Even if right now Brun did not do any more damage, he'd be able to look and say, hey, we were at 70 food both before, and now I'm 20 food ahead. I can objectively say that this was a successful attack. And look at that great little bit of harassment. That was just fantastical. This is very exciting to me for this matchup, to see that sort of utilization of this strategy. And I do want to note that, hey, during that attack, Brun's macro fell apart. Brun, oh no. However, Brun, you're allowed to play poorly right there, because you still have some sort of objective measure. You can still say, hey, my food is 25 food ahead of my opponents, and I'm not spending money. That means if I did spend my money, I'd be even more ahead. You have to measure. You have to be able to measure and benchmark. You can't just be like, I made Reapers, I won a game. You can't do that. Stop farting and measure. So that's actually pretty good news, though, for Brun, that he does have this information. And this is the moment where I guarantee you Brun is thinking, dude, I should do this Reaper stuff more often. This is awesome. Is he actually probably even making more Reapers? I actually like that a lot. Sometimes when something works, people tend to just be like, oh, I want to do that again in this game. No. You want to do that again next game. You don't want to do it in this game. So now we're seeing an attack. So now, anytime there's an attack, come back to your question one. You know, I'm actually even going to write these in a notepad file. I would use MS Paint, but I'm just too tired. The three things when trying something new. Like Reapers. I'm writing so much lately. Am I gonna die? Or like, can I stay alive? Distribution of money while doing Reapers. And how does the rest of my strategy plug into Reapers? So right now, anytime there's an attack, this is the question you should be looking at. The can I stay alive? But how does this can I stay alive part work? This is where it's important to think about micro-controlling. Yeah, look, Brun pops down the cliff, very intuitive. What flank does he pop down? Well, the one where there is a whole bunch of Zealots and Sentries. And in all honesty, I actually think Protoss probably would have won that battle. Do I agree with that statement? It's actually pretty darn close. I actually think Terran would probably be pulling a little bit ahead against with just this against just that. That's pretty close. But what I want to notice is that, hey, in a regular game, you'd probably be doing a little bit of frowning as Terran here. But because we have Reapers with this army size, hey, that's good. Yeah, look at those units just evaporate, not even being able to contribute to the fight. Immortals not really doing as much punishment to those Reapers as they can. As of course, Reapers are a light unit, which does mean that Reapers counter Reapers. Anyways, returning to the game. We see that the Reapers continuing to move out, and hey, this is something very cool that we're also starting to see. If I just have Reapers kind of around, anytime I defend an attack, that might be a good time to make an attack myself. We're starting to see some cool behaviors that we can do. I'm going to reopen back the production. We're starting to see some more Reapers pop on out. And again, look at this money distribution. Look at this huge amount of money, very, very broke on gas, as we ended up examining. So that is some good stuff. I'm actually going to go ahead and quit this replay. And then I'm going to drag StarCraft 2 off the whole screen because it needs to restart. Now, I need you to know, it's going to get unstable because there's special settings that you have to do for StarCraft right when it ends up booting up. And because it boots up like a million times now, thanks you patch, I'm going to have to drag you off the screen. What is my username? It's that. What is my password? It's this. Log me in. Good. Now we're going to pick another replay. And I want to think of everything in terms of that same basic harassment, or the same basic 3 principles that we will find in the notepad document here. Can I stay alive? The distribution of money while doing our new thing, and how does our thing plug into the rest of our strategy? So I'm going to be pulling StarCraft 2 back on over here. We're going to briefly end up changing the settings on how StarCraft 2 is running so it does not crash. And then we're going to rearrange the screen for aesthetically pleasing viewing experience. And it's almost there. Yeah! Perfect! Alright, cool. We have versus Agent Scarn. Whew, that was easy. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's going to be a Terran versus Terran. I have no idea which player the Reapering player is going to be. That is not a big deal to me. And I would like to reiterate once again that it is currently 7:39 where I am, which means that pizza should be arriving shortly. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it looks like Marky is letting me know that the question script is actually down for a couple of days. Brr. Brr. How frown-townish, but no big deal. We got Newbie Tuesday coming up. Let's go ahead and speed things up. Based upon the actions per minute, I would estimate that these are Platinum Leaguers. Platinum-ish, Platinum to Gold, something in that variety. So it looks like Namja Dice having a little bit of indecision about whether to go gas or barracks first. Don't know what the meaning of that business is. Probably something like, hey, I'm going to be going for Mass Reapers. Should I be stockpiling a lot of gas early on? Or it could just be a total misclick, or it could be a deep-seated problem with decision-making, with indecision. Naj Madolchi is getting himself his orbital command. We see Agent Scarn not getting his orbital command quite on time. Again, that's what we call a bump. A bump is any time when decision-wise, the obvious thing decision-wise, there's no question. It's obvious what you should do, but you're having trouble executing it. That's the best way to describe a bump. Easy example. You have an SCV, it's building, it finishes building. And then another SCV builds, that 5-second period where you know, yeah, when my SCV is done, I immediately want to build another one. But you don't do it. That's a bump. That is a bump. You want to remove those bumps from those play. We're removing bumps. And sometimes it's not about execution, sometimes it's about money. Like if your barracks finishes and the decision to make a marine or to build a structure is obviously what you want to do, but you just cannot afford to do it, that is also a bump. That is bump. That's a bump. It is a bump. So we see Najmadulchi making marines. I'm not sure who our Reapering player is yet, but I imagine it's Agent Scarn. Okay. We're seeing Agent Scarn do something different from Brun. What do we see Brun do in last game? Brun immediately went for a normal play. He got Marauders and Marines and 3 barracks. And then he kind of got a factory and was like, ooh, let's sneak some Reapers into here. That is mid-game Reapers, or I would call it late, early game Reapers. Now we're seeing Scarn go for early game Reapers. And again, I still want you to keep in mind that these 3 questions are the important things. Can he stay alive? Well, let's look at the game. Can he stay alive? Well, there's 2 Marines. He's going to have a Reaper out soon with a Marine. So right now I'm thinking, yeah. How does the distribution of his money work? Well, we're seeing him stockpile a lot of money. To me, that would either say get a command center or get more barracks or begin getting more gas, something like that. How does the rest of the strategy plug into the Reapers? We're going to have to see what he ends up building. Going to have to see what structures he ends up building. But Agent Scarn, I'm counting on you. Hey, look, he appears to be getting more gas. And then it looks like he's getting a factory as well. And more barracks. Things are just kind of getting thrown down a little haphazardly. And in terms of bumps, I want to back this up a little bit. Actually, let's come forward again to exactly where we were. Let's see what Agent Scarn is eventually going to get. It looks like eventually he's going to have 2 gas, 2 barracks, 1 factory. That is eventually what he's going to get. This is the idea of smoothness of play. Smoothness of play when you're trying a new strategy. Trying to smooth it out. So this is the usual thought process that I'm sure happens to many of you, especially if you are hanging out in good old bronze, silver, or gold league, where you think, I want to do something weird. I want to begin getting more infestors, or this game, I'm going to get carriers. Or if you're doing Newbie Tuesday, here, I'm going to be doing Reapers. Good. You just begin going for them and sort of notice what ends up happening. You, for instance, would notice, oh, my money's high. Barracks? You just kind of list them out. But after you've done that, I want you to do what we just did. Come down and list something like 2 barracks, 1 factory, 2 refineries. Good, my spelling is on point. And then what I want you to do is, in your first attempt, you're going to have bumps like the ones that Agent Scarn has, where, man, there's a lot of money here. But you should just say something like, I am going to get my 2nd refinery much earlier. I got it at 19 food. I'm going to get it at, like, 16 food. And then I'm going to get my barracks at 19 food and my factory at 20 food. Try to start making them earlier. What's useful about this is anytime your money gets high at all, what doesn't happen is you go, oh, my money's high. What could I spend it on? I guess this would be useful. All right, cool, I'll go build that. Instead it is, hey, my money's high. Let me go look at the list of things I already know I need. Oh, I'm at 200. Well, I need a barracks. Boom, barracks goes down. Hey, I have 150, 100. I need a factory. That's on my list. Boom, it goes down. You want to accelerate it. Smooth it on out. So that is a little bit about smoothiness. This relates directly back to this point. Distribution of money while doing the Reapers. Making sure, hey, while I'm getting Reapers, man, it looks like I have a lot more resources than I thought I could. Hey, I can afford a 2nd refinery. I didn't know I could do that. Hey, I'm a pretty cool cat. Maybe you don't talk like that, but hey, that's fine. It's my show. So we see Agent Scarn. Looks like he's hiding his Reapers. Every so often, I just want to pause and just be like, can our opponent just go kill us? Nope. I don't think so. Marines die a little bit too fast to them Reapers. Namjadulchi getting the usual jank. Looks like Speed Reaper's going down. So still, I want to point out the fact that right now, Agent Scarn has just gone for Reapers, and right when these 2 tech labs finish, I want to pause right now. Let's pretend for a moment that this Reaper doesn't get made. Or let's pretend that, like, 2 more Reapers get made. And this is the distribution we have, right? So let's say we can definitely stay alive. Let's say that we're content with how our money distribution went. Now the question is, how does the rest of my strategy plug into the Reapers? In other words, what is a good way to follow up exactly what we see here? I want you just to stare at these buildings. What is a good follow-up based upon these buildings? These are the 3 structures that we have. The reason I want you to just pause and think about this exercise is, again, when you're doing something kind of funky, you don't have to have a huge, elaborate plan. The top gamers love having huge, elaborate plans. I'm going to open with this, and that will let me do that, and then I can do that, and then at the 37-minute mark, I can take a faster 7th base. You know, people do that shit. But there's nothing wrong with just discovering where you're at. There's nothing wrong with being Agent Scarn and saying, all right, cool, my money's kind of low, and this is where I end up. What now? There's nothing wrong with that. So I want you to look at this, think for just a few more seconds while I get my water. All right, good. Here's something that immediately comes to mind for me. Hey, we can begin getting tanks because we have this tech lab upgrade. And in addition to that, because I have these 2 tech labs, I can get a fast combat shield and a fast stim. I can begin churning out some more Marines here. Hey, cool. So I could, for instance, go for a really fast tank Marine push where my Marines have both stim and combat shield. Cool. I could even do something slightly more subtle. I could actually just remove this tech lab and get a starport instead, and do the same thing. I could say, hey, I have 2 tech labs. I can begin going stim, combat shield, Marines, and I can get like a fast medevac, and I can put pressure on with that. Yeah! We're starting to use what structures we've done to think what would be the most reasonable thing. You know what does not feel very good? What doesn't feel very good? Let's do something really obvious. Going mech feels really bad. Like, oh, and now that I have these 2 barracks with tech labs, I'm going to lift them off into the sky and put down 2 more factories, and then be going mass tank and expand. It sounds like it's even going to be awkward. But hey, I'm thinking about using these 2 tech labs. So let's see how Agent Scam ends up using it. Hey, it looks like, oh, sorry, I thought stim. That's the other man going stim. Yep, we're seeing Agent Scarn just continue to add on more Reapers. Again, money-wise, wow, distribution of money while doing Reapers is a little bit bumpy. So hey, it looks like we have a command center going down, but again, I'd just like to reiterate that we could be getting that command center a lot earlier. Just going to reiterate this briefly as we return back to the 6-minute and 30-second mark. Just briefly note that, hey, we have almost enough for an expansion, and okay, we have enough for an expo. Okay, we have enough. We have enough again. Okay, we still have enough. We have enough. Okay, and there it's going down, but it's late, and there it finally goes down. Quite some time between when we had enough money and when we actually began to implement it. So we see Hellions popping out. Not quite certain how we feel about that. But we do see the Speed Reapers moving right on around, and this is Namjadulci just deciding to kill himself. That can be potentially problematic. But I want you to note that Agent Scarn isn't doing anything really special with these Reapers. He's moving in, he tried to do a little damage, and now he's moving right on back out again. Again, a big key problem. Make sure you are indeed macroing while you are in the midst of doing that sort of Reaper harass. Very, very, very common thing to have happen when it's the first time you do a strategy. If this is the first time Agent Scarn did this strategy, that's fine. Don't stress yourself. Don't beat yourself up too much. And hey, look at Agent Scarn doing something continually interesting. He is continuing to get Reapers, which means he's going to have more money, so he's going to be going Hellion and more barracks, and he's going to try to squeeze in Blue Flame. We see the starport popping down right now. It looks like Namjadulci is having to play a little bit more passively, I'd also try to question for myself. I try to just say, hey, well, what if he goes Banshees? Can I stay alive while going Reaper Hellion? Is that a possibility? And then we do see the command center finishing for Agent Scarn. Good stuff. There's the starport going down, and I want to continue to think about this little mixture of money. This is a little bit unusual to see Blue Flame Hellions being used at this point in time. A little bit unusual. I'm not so sure how much I like that. Even though a Namjadalchi is going for the most typical thing in the world, I almost like it more than I like Agent Scam's position at this point in time. I'm not sure Agent Scam was able to buy enough time, but I could be wrong. I would have to just rewatch quite a bit. I'd still am a little bit concerned about the highness of the money. And this is perhaps the most important point in the game to note what I'm going to say. It's one of the most elegant sentences I've said recently. This is the most important time to say the important thing that I'm going to be presenting to you right now, guys. Notice that the Reapers have actively done like one thing. They went in, they shot at some SCVs, and they left, and now they're here. Cool. However, that doesn't mean that the Reapers have played a little tiny part in the game. The most tragic thing that happens is when people say things like, oh yeah, well, maybe he should be going Reaper right there. And actually, I'll come back to that point in a minute. Man, I need to prep. Man, I need to have less theses due on Wednesdays. So, notice that the Reapers have done almost nothing. And yet still, notice the powerful impact this has on shaping everything around it. We have 2 really fast barracks with tech labs. We got this refinery a lot earlier than we normally would. This factory that we had to get was almost a little bit awkward. What do we do? Well, I guess we're getting Blue Flame Hellions now. All this happened because we just decided to build Reapers. The Reapers haven't done anything, but just by building them, everything has to be reshaped around that. Now I want to continue with what I was saying earlier. You will always hear people say the following, and I'm sure you sometimes say the following too, where you say, well, why didn't he just get X? Would X have helped out a little bit? I get asked that all the time at the end of dailies. Well, hey, in that game, would that have been a good game? Couldn't he just gotten some Reapers and gotten speed? Couldn't that guy just gotten some Infestors and done that? But everything around gets so dramatically shaped that you kind of have to account for that. So that's exactly what we're seeing here in good old Agent Scarn's play. Everything else dramatically shaped just by getting some set of things. And even though people love to say, oh yeah, this is a standard play, by getting tanks with siege, you dramatically shape the way you play. People didn't used to play like this. Even though it's standard now, people didn't used to play like this. They had to depart dramatically from what they used to do. So now we're going to see Agent Scarn moving on out. It looks like looks like he was going for that watchtower. Oh, excuse me. And now he's going to pop up here. Whoopsie daisies. He really should just kill those Marines with ease. Instead, it looks like he's going to be darting in here. And this is another really interesting little moment in the gameplay, I feel. Because it means I don't even care what this guy has, because I'm going to counterattack with 4 Reapers every single time he tries to move out. And because we have this short little hot path, yeah, it's going to be problematic for him. And this is actually, I think, stronger than, for instance, a Banshee. Because one Banshee is easily dealt with by having, like, a Viking left behind. You have to leave behind kind of some more stuff. Maybe a tank siege in the back is the lightest you can do, but it's very possible to have those get ripped up kind of easily. And again, do your benchmarks. It looks like Namjadalchi is actually not that far behind us. It's actually not as far. Don't immediately assume, oh my god, if I'm not way ahead, I'm doing something wrong. In normal builds, you're dead even, and then you immediately win when you do an attack, right? You're even until like 3 seconds before your opponent leaves the game. So what I would say is right now, it looks fine. It looks fine. Whenever you're even, just make sure that you're kind of trying to stay even. That's a good way of saying, like, okay, well, at least I'm not really messing up. If you were going Speed Reaper and you're like 40 food behind your opponent and nothing's really happened, and you try to do a counterattack and again, you're still 20 food behind your opponent, that's kind of not so good. It's a little bit concerning. It's a little bit concerning. So at this point, we're going to see, looks like the Blue Flame Hellions dart right on in. annihilate the Marines, and hey, similar to what Echoic did, we're seeing... Whose scan is that? Who did that scan? Oh, that was Namja Dice. Scans the uncloaked Banshee when there are no units that can shoot up. That's pretty glorious. Yeah, and I do believe this was the replay I downloaded where Agent Scarn said that he was trying to transition into something Echoic E. It looks like he just took two ideas and tried to mash them together. And I want to note how incredibly high Agent Scarn's money is. Not nearly high enough. Anytime your money's high, it means one of two things is happening. You're just not building enough stuff. Like, you know, you have 4 barracks, but you can support 10 barracks, so you need to build 6 more. Or, and I'm going to get my pizza, you're not stopping me. And the other important thing is that you might not be getting it fast enough. Be quiet. You might not be getting it fast enough. So again, build more structures and do exactly what you're doing, just faster. Hello? I did order pizza. I will be right out. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Stay here. Yeah. I'll see you in a second. Pizza. If you guys ever seen Multiplicity, you know what I'm talking about. Every time I get pizza, I'm just always, pizza, getting your pizza. I have pizza, bam, the flam. Yes, indeed, absolutely, pizza. All right, just have to briefly check the task manager. Good, fantastic, yes, excellent. Coming back, so again, high money. To reiterate the point I tried to make before pizza ended up arriving, and they gave me red peppers. Yes. Anytime your money's high, it means one of two things. You didn't build enough structures. So again, like 4 barracks when you really could support 10. Or you're not getting things fast enough, and that's the one thing I want to throw out there. That perhaps, Agent Scam has just the right amount of buildings. But because he waited too long to build them, he has this little bit of fat he needs to trim off. Oh my god, this pizza is huge. Okay, I'm going to set it down. You guys can watch me eat it at the very end. So now we can again measure. We can clearly measure that Agent Scarn is ahead, that he's done something right. I do kind of question this transition. I question it a little bit. It seems a little bit awkward for a brief period of time there. But it would be something to test a lot. You want to try to smooth the bumps out. Again, come back here. Yep. We saw that, whoa, Agent Scarn kind of had some money built up earlier and eventually got these things. So this is why I always like to have lists of things at various points. Because at this point, I'd be like, all right, cool. 3 racks, 2 fac, 1 port. Let's be consistent. 1 port. So, like, I would now call this his early game goals, and then his mid-game goals, and then anytime Agent Scarn begins to get high on his money, he should build one of these things. And then, after he's here, anytime he starts to get high on money, he should build one of these things. I'll even include expand. Like, very, very easy to begin to do. Alright, cool. Cool. Let's Speeding things right along, let's see the eventual outcome. And then we'll go ahead and just briefly dip into one more. We're going to ninja through that last one. And hey, look, anytime our opponent moves out, we see the Reapers can continue to counter-attack. Looks like, yeah, it was a Reaper opening, not a Reaper mid-game. Easy peasy. I can tell you exactly what happens in that game. It's going to be good game. So now, again, comes the tragic moment where we have to close StarCraft 2, reopen it. We have to slide it out of the way. I have to type in my email address, which is this. Go into my password. And then I have to just pick another Newbie Tuesday game at random. Let's pick a very, very short one because I very am going to go over. Yeah, let's see if we can get one with Zerg in there. Let's see if we can use the Zerg. Yes, T-Bear. T-Bear, it's all you, Dwag. It's all you, Dwag. I don't say dog. I say Dwag because I typo. IRL. Again, if you're experiencing any skipping, it's all on my end. It's all my computer because I keep having to reboot and reload into previous versions. So now that it is finally almost done loading, we're going to be going into the final game of Newbie Tuesday. Final game of Newbie Tuesday. And then once that, again, loads up, we're going to readjust it for maximally pleasurable viewing experience. Oh my gosh, I don't know about you, but that framing is absolutely maximally pleasurable to me. Disabling the preview. Good. We got T-Bear spawning at the right. We got Ilirem, or Ilirem, or IIIRREM. What I actually think it is I don't know if you do this, but anytime I see an ID, I immediately look at what it is backwards. So this is Merrill, backwards, Merrill. T-Bear, red, like Reckrel, Lurker, backwards. Ever been a Team Liquid and seen Grobik? That's Cyborg, backwards. The famous caster, Railcoon, it's Nuclear, backwards. Did I just blow your mind? I'm just going to open the chat and see people's minds blown away. Railcoon, Grobik, Reckrel, all popular words backwards. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Derp. People are freaking out. That's right. So now we have a Terran versus Zerg. Let's come back to a famous notepad document of mine. How do we stay alive? In this case, I'm worried about the roaches. Distribution of money while doing the Reapers. Are we spending it properly? Are we letting it stockpile? Or are we downing it on things that are going to be useful for number 3? Having the rest of the strategy plug in smoothly. I paused it. My bad. So we are seeing T-Bear get harassed. We're seeing the Zerg player open up with a fairly early pool. We're going to go through this a little bit more quickly because we've been going for almost 1 hour, and I actually would like to end on time. There's the gas steal, so let's see how T-Bear ends up responding. It looks like he makes one Marine. Is he going to make... No, he's actually going to go directly into the production of the Reaper. T-Bear does wall off. And it looks like, again, we're going to see perhaps a Reaper opening. No, it looks like T-Bear is actually going to continue to make Marines. Again, we're starting to notice some bumps occur in play, where we had a lot of money before we built that factory. We had a barracks and not doing much of anything. Hey, look, here comes a bunch of roaches. This is a great example game that we're going to take time to look at. Yeah, look at T-Bear. T-Bear is doing some really great, obvious decision-making. Obvious is not bad at all. The obvious is good. Hey, what are we doing down here? Quickly. All right, there. Now we're good. Hey, I'm going to open up with Reapers. I'm even going to get a factory fast so I can get speed for my Reapers. Better make a bunker early so I don't die. That's so obvious! I love it, right? I love obvious decisions. Intuitive. And T-Bear is also getting the factory. I don't quite know so much about that. And see, here is, again, a little bit of problem with the money distribution. Oh no, I'm going to get Reapers, but let me make a round of Marines, because I'm all broke. I'm all broke. I'm all sad. So here it looks like Zerg pops up. He's going to get repelled. We see this factory out right now. And hey, now here comes some Speed Reapers. At any point in time, do we think that T-Bear could have died? No, probably not. We see him adding on 2 more barracks. Intuitive, great. Adding on another supply depot. Going for longest road. One of my new favorite jokes. Getting an engineering bay, that's fine. I'm still interested to see if there's going to be a command center down. There's a little bit of fat you can trim off. Get rid of that tech lab, yeah. But now I'm going to continue to be interested in some of the tactics that we're going to see T-Bear try to incorporate into his play. Looks like we have some more other reactors going down. Yep. Just doing the usual basic, clear, obvious harassment. Reapers have not done much all game, but again, note. What position is T-Bear in right now? What would be good for him to do other than make a command center because his money's high? Hell, combat shield, stim, and these 2 barracks could easily get reactors. Hey, you know what? This is actually a very easy way to transition into a usual mix of buildings for Terran against Zerg. 4 barracks, 2 with reactor, 2 with tech lab, 1 factory, pumping out tanks. That's so easy. It's easy. It's easy. It is easy. Love a mid-game Reaper. So we do see Reapers continuing to be produced. Looks like another tech lab going down. Looks like TBR continuing to be convinced that he can add more Reapers. There they are. We do need to stop at some point making Reapers. It's very tempting to get a little obsessed about that. But you heard me talk about that in Game 1 with Brun. So commonly, yeah, you see here, this is more about, this is actually perhaps the best example we've seen of this today. What did I say you need to worry about when your money gets high? 1, am I just not building all the things I can support? Or 2, am I just not doing my stuff fast enough? Here, we can clearly say, hey, we're just not getting our command centers fast enough, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, in general, I love to just be overly blunt and be like, keep your damn money low. Also, don't ever put your Reapers in a corner. That's one of those things that you don't think about it until it happens to you once, and then that is the most it will ever happen to you because that deeply painful memory will be seared into your brain. I'm going to be speeding up. I'm starting to like the fact that T-Bear did transition into this mass infantry. Again, we can clearly see that T-Bear's macro is not phenomenal, but that is fine. This is still going to maintain truedness at any level of play. The idea of integrating these Reapers into the overall structure and composition of your buildings, the composition of your buildings, not the composition of your units. And I think that we're actually going to go ahead and just stop there because we just hit the hour mark, and I want to take some questions. Markio, can you link me to that fancy script grabber? Actually, he doesn't need to do that because I can just scroll up in Skype. Oh my gosh, my brain is just off. I'm going to just type in all... Oh, it's down. Ooh. Oh my god. I just want to read this. I just want to reenact exactly what just happened to me. I'm ready for questions. Marky had programmed a script for me with the questions and linked them. So that way it's a very easily sortable thing. So what I did is I went and messaged him in Skype, hey, I'm ready for a link to the questions. And if I looked that much farther up, follow my eyes. I was looking at his text, and if I looked there, I would have seen the link and I could have copy-pasted it. All it took was that. That's all the effort. And... you know what is the last thing that Marky said to me? The question script is down for a couple days. Woo! King Day 9, brain is off. Oh, that brain is not functioning. That brain is not functioning. Okay, so SC2 Submit says, Dear Day 9, I'm a Master League Terran. When I go for late Reapers, I usually can kill a lot of probe structures, and this causes immediate counter-reaction, but fairly often I don't have enough stuff to defend myself. This is another idea of whenever you do something, there's some like corresponding new thing that you have to do. Like, in a positive way, if I make a lot of Reapers early on, hey, I get all this extra money, that's so cool. But like, hey, if I attack with Reapers later on, I gotta have a lot of, I need to build bunkers for defense. And it's a pretty easy way to do that. Anytime you're able to do something incredibly good, I would try to make sure you can keep doing that. like try to make bunkers, try to make more defensive structures, maybe try to do like a forward planetary fortress, something like that. What the last thing I would end up doing is to try to not go for the Reaper Harass, because if it turns out that the Reaper Harass is really helpful, you want to try to make it work. Two more questions. Two more questions. Dun 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 bum 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 dun dun dun. Losing track of focus. IDGAFSC2. Dear Day 9, with the recent change under the Infestor, do you feel like this unit will become the staple in Zerg vs. Zerg? Actually, I didn't look at the questions appropriately. Oh no, sorry, that is him. Gosh, I'm so sorry. I've been awake forever. I'm going to try to stay focused. Do you feel like this unit will become the staple in Zerg vs. Zerg, or every good player will have at least like 3 Infestors, and Zerg vs. Zerg will break down to Infestor micro? I don't know. That, and I'm glad you brought up some other units to experiment with, because I think that with the boost to the Infestor, and it is a boost, mind you, this immediately has the impact of making them more desirable, which immediately frees up a ton more money. So, whereas people will look at the battle, where it's like Roach Infestor, and say, it used to be pretty standard to have Roach Infestor, but now the Infestors are really good, so the Roaches are going to be super weak. Well, maybe people don't even build Roaches anymore. Maybe, in fact, Zerg vs. Zerg transitions into something obvious, like Zergling Infestor, or maybe something not so obvious, like Mass Expanding End Infestor and Hydralisks, because you're mass expanding. These are the sorts of things to consider. So I would love if you guys would actually, for next week's Newbie Tuesday, it seems as though that was planned, wasn't it? For next week's Newbie Tuesday, I want you to experiment with getting lots of Infestors in your play. I want you to have at least 4 Infestors in the mid-game, or actually at any point in the game. I want you to have at least 4 Infestors around. Practice Infestor rushing, see how that goes. When you get a lair, the first thing you do is an infestation pet. And then I also want you to try just having more in your composition. And you know what? Because I've been having long dailies lately, actually I'm going to end. I know I said I'd take another question, but I'm going to be rude and disappear into a whir of forgetfulness. So I would like to, again, say that for next week's Fun Day Monday, do nukes. Nuke rush, you must... Why do I have my overlay up? I'm going to come right back. Decline. For next week's Fun Day Monday, I want it to be that you must have a nuke started building before you begin expanding, and you must nuke at least 3 times in the game, and you must use a line from Dr. Zeus while nuking. Oh, that's the end of the daily. Goodbye.